All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. 365, we making a plays. You talking the game, get you through the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety, topics never the same. All presentation, sports information. In the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, like working your faces. Grace up the field, so tie the laces. All sports, all plays. Network. All sports, all plays. Network. We on top of our game. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays.
Yo, what is going on, everybody? And welcome to another post-game show on the ASAP Network. I am Ace from the West Coast, and tonight, guess what? Who's more than just a moderator? And I'll tell you what, we are joined tonight by none other than Will. Please let me box that bad man and Jared Goff Holston because.
Oh man! Oh, what a pleasure it would be.
All right, so Will, how are you doing tonight, man?
Man, we're doing all right. We're hanging in there. Good. Glad to finally wrap up week 13. It's been a long and exhausting one between games all the way from Sunday now all the way to Tuesday. Been a weird week, but glad it's over. We're getting ready to move on now. But first, we got a game to talk about. So.
All right. And then we are also joined by none other than Brandon, Big Man Herrera. How you doing tonight, brother?
Yeah, I'm doing okay. Like Will said, glad to wrap up another week of football. It's been long, but exciting week of football, though.
Absolutely right. It was. Now I know it's really strange, right? Because we never have games on Tuesday nights, so it's like it's extremely strange.
So weird.
But in a way, I'm like, you know what? It's kind of cool. It really is kind of cool. We get another post game. Unfortunately, we get the pleasure of talking about the Dallas Cowboys. So, yeah, right? So we get to talk about the Baltimore Ravens and the Dallas Cowboys. But before we jump into that quick, the first thing I do want to say is, Will, why don't you tell me how can we buy one of those T-shirts?
Oh, man. Well, I tell you what, to get a free T-shirt to start off, you could be the viewer of the month on the ASAP Network. You can be in the comment section. You can be commenting, liking, sharing the post, be a part of the network. Just be just a big help to the ASAP Network family. We love whenever you guys are down in the comment section giving your opinions. But if you're a little bit gun shy whenever it comes to the comment section, you can message one of us. Are we still running the $14.99 plus shipping and handling?
Yes. That is actually a brand new price now. We're doing that from now on.
So, man, you thought it was a deal whenever it was $25 plus shipping and handling. Now we're bringing it all the way down to $14.99 plus shipping and handling. Going to be an amazing Christmas gift, amazing gift for yourself, even if you want to get if you're a big part of the ASAP Network. Tell you what, you can message one of us and we will get you your ASAP T-shirt ASAP.
All right. So we have a few comments right now, and the first one actually comes from Madison, which says, y'all have no idea how much Will hates Jared Goff. And you know what, Madison, we do have an idea, and we have a great idea because in the chat that we have in Messenger, man, we always hear from Will about how much he hates Jared Goff.
It has to be known. I mean, I will never accept the fact that he's in the NFL. I just won't do it.
And then they also said, weekly football gives me a reason not to study for finals. I love that reason. That's a great reason. And then
I take it.
And then our man Freddie's actually says he's disappointed that he did not get an invite to come on the show tonight. But I'll tell you what, it's hard to invite Freddie on the show when he's Mr. Delusional, as we call him, right? All right. So how about we jump into this great game tonight, right? We have Baltimore. Yeah. So we have Baltimore versus Dallas. First off, I'm going to give Will the first question of the night. As we saw, they paid Zeke. Like Dallas absolutely paid Zeke. Now, if you look at the year Zeke's having this year, he has not had a great year. He's averaging 66 yards a game. Tonight, again, he ran for less than 100 yards again. So what do you think tonight went wrong with Zeke, or just in general this year is going on with Zeke?
Well, Zeke's used to that big safety blanket that the offensive line is in Dallas. I mean, he's used to having people such as a Tyron Smith, such as a Zach Martin, such as a Travis Frederick, list goes on and on. I mean, that offensive line is full of all-pro tackles, guards, center, everything. I mean, whenever you want to talk about a brick wall, it really is the Dallas Cowboys offensive line, typically, whenever it comes down to it. But they've seen a lot of injury issues, a lot of COVID issues. And they're playing with some backups, some undrafted rookies in there at tackle. It's going to be an uncharacteristic year for Zeke. I don't know if I would freak out just yet. I still think he's one of the better backs in the league. Averaging 60-something yards a game. J-Mac pointed it out on Sports Minute. That still gets you 1,000 yards at the end of the year. So, I mean, it's one of those where, we look at it because – with the price tag comes an expectation, and we know who Zeke is. So to see his numbers drop, we get concerned, but he's still not a bad running back. It's just that he's getting outshined by such as a Derrick Henry or a Dalvin Cook. But the offensive line has seen a lot of different faces this year, and I think that's going to be playing a big part for Zeke.
Yeah, and when we look at tonight, I think one big thing that actually shocked me. So when you look at Dallas had the ball at the one, and they ran it on 3 consecutive plays with Zeke. Now, the thing is when you look at previous years, that's a touchdown that Zeke's going to get all the time.
Mm-hmm.
This year, like especially tonight, I'm like, how did he not score on any one of those? So. Right, it's crazy. So, Brandon, what was your thoughts on that right there? Because for once, Mike McCarthy finally gave Zeke a chance and said, look, you're our bell cow. We're going to give you the ball. We're at the 1. You go in and you put the ball in the end zone, and he couldn't do it. So, Brandon, going off of what Will said, what is going on with Zeke?
I think Will nailed it. I mean, that offensive line is so hit or miss right now that you want to be able to trust your offensive line. I don't think he didn't trust them getting the holes for him. And on that, 4 or 3 runs down or 4 runs down at the 1, I mean, that D-line stood up and just, they weren't letting nobody go through. I don't think Henry could have got through, or maybe even Dalvin Cook. That D-line really stuck it right to him.
Now, one thing I will say, and I've kind of been hearing it, reading about it a little bit on Facebook, and I'm like, no, I don't want to hear that, to where some Dallas fans are like, well, our kicker missed 3 field goals. Okay, but when you look at the final score, those 9 points didn't mean nothing. Dallas still wouldn't have won that game regardless. However, though, Greg Zuerlein, that's his job, man. Like, he's got to make those kicks. That's what he gets paid for. He went 1 of 4 on field goals. 1 of 4. So, Will, looking at Greg Zuerlein going 1 of 4, at what point as a head coach and as Mike McCarthy, do you look at this, go, you know what, something this year is really wrong with this team, and do you finally look at Zuerlein and say, you know what, man, this is wrong, and then you let him go?
2020 has just been a weird year all the way around, man. I tell you what. I mean, Greg Zuerlein's been one of the most consistent kickers over the last couple of seasons. And then all of a sudden, his first year away from Los Angeles, you start to see him struggle a little bit. It's interesting. I don't know if it has anything to do with 2020. I don't know if it has anything to do with the new kicking inside of AT&T Stadium. Maybe it's a dome thing. I'm not too sure what it is. Obviously, today was in Baltimore, so it's a little bit different. But it's weird because, like I've mentioned, Zuerlein's been one of the most consistent kickers in the NFL. I mean, he was given the nickname Legatron for a reason. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's a monster whenever it comes to it. 1 for 4 is definitely shaky, though. It's going to come down to obviously a 1 for 4 day. You can't just pull the plug on Legatron. But if this continues to be a problem to where he's consistently missing 2 kicks a game, I mean, obviously, like you mentioned, that's your job. You got to go out there, you got to perform. Unfortunately, kicker seems to be the most expendable position in the NFL. I mean, you make one mistake, and then everybody looks at you like you're public enemy number one. I mean, look at Cody Parkey. Cody Parkey made a mistake out there in Chicago, and everybody looked at him like he was the whole entire problem for why the Bears ever lost any single game that season. Like, the Bears lost 4 games that season and then lost a postseason game due to a double doink. I mean, you want to talk about coming so close to hitting it. You managed to hit the goalpost twice, and now all of a sudden, you're basically exiled. You got completely kicked out of the franchise. But I would still stick with Legatron if I'm Coach McCarthy. I mean, he's just been so consistent over the years, and 2020 just seems to be a freak year for a lot of players. It could be one of those for Greg Zuerlein too. I'd definitely give him another shot next week. Just hope for the best, because we've seen kickers have bad weeks and bounce back. But like I said, if it continues to be a problem, then definitely got to look somewhere else.
Well, yeah, and the only reason I'm bringing this up is because we've seen in past that, when kicker has a bad game like this, next day you look on ESPN and like, oh, they cut their kicker. And
Right.
this is typical. This is something that you will see teams do, because they go, okay, he missed 3 kicks. Is this in his head? Is his confidence down? You just never know at that point. And so that's why I bring it up and say, at what point, we understand it's one game, but I think this year, he's missed 6 or 7 kicks this whole year. So I don't know.
That's definitely a very uncharacteristic of him, I'll tell you that.
All right, so Madison left another comment that says every point counts. Now, I get that every point counts, but these 9 points weren't going to make a difference.
Well, you guys also got to remember they left points on the board when they got that pickoff too, and no one got 3 points when they could have got 7. So I mean, there's another 4 points possibly. So
here's my thing whenever it comes to points on the board, though, and we may be getting to it later on, but I'm just gonna jump right to it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Nothing was more concerning for me. You want to talk about points on the board? The Ravens went 1 for 4 in the red zone.
Yeah,
Okay, this is a postseason team, like a postseason team, and they went 1 for 4 in the red zone. And their only time that they converted in the red zone was at the very end of the game in garbage time with like 2 minutes left on the clock. That's very concerning. You want to talk about every point counts. You're leaving every time you run into the red zone. You should at least be getting 3, and you're not getting touchdowns. I mean, that's going to be make or break in the postseason. It really is.
Yeah, which I was about to say. You know what? We're sitting here and we're talking about how bad Dallas was tonight, and virtually how bad they've been pretty much all season. Mm-hmm. But we're not going to let the Ravens off the hook, because I'll tell you what, they might have won tonight, but it wasn't impressive. When you look at Lamar Jackson's numbers, 12 of 17 for 107 yards. 107 yards, and this guy's the reigning MVP. So I'm going to ask the question to Brandon Herrera. So, Brandon, on this one, what is going on with Lamar Jackson?
He's one-dimensional. I mean, if he's not running the ball, he's not a good passer. And I said it in the chat, if Lamar Jackson could put together a decent passing game where you're getting 250 and a couple touchdowns and his run game, the guy would be unstoppable for any team. I mean, you just can't trust his passing game. Yeah, if he runs 100 yards like they did today, I mean, the team ran a total of almost 300 yards total. So, yeah, if they can do that consistently, you got a shot. But when it comes to playoff time, you got to be able to have a balance between passing and running the ball to win. And I don't think Baltimore has that.
And I completely agree with you, because I think one big problem is right now is that teams are starting to figure out that Lamar Jackson has a difficult time passing the ball. They're starting to figure that out. And so now they're starting to focus on Lamar, going, you know what? All we have to do is stop the running game, and we can beat Baltimore because he can't throw.
100%. I mean, the biggest problem whenever I was looking at this game, Lamar Jackson had 2 passing touchdowns, okay, and they were both pretty big plays. I think one was for 20 yards, one was for 38 yards. If you take away those 2 passing touchdowns, he went 10 for 15 for 49 yards.
Mm-hmm.
That is awful. That's not good. Okay, you can't be completing 10 passes and only be getting 49 yards. You're not Tua Tagovailoa. You're not Cam Newton. Okay, like stop. Like Cam Newton has an amazing defense behind him, and yes, so does Baltimore. But the problem is that everybody knows this is a one-dimensional offense. Everybody knows what the plan is, and if you stop the run, it's another thing to where you've been proven to where you cannot score. You know, it's the same thing in New England. If you can stop Cam Newton from 1 to 2 yard runs that he likes to do, then you're shutting down the offense because they don't have any wide receivers. And that's why we're seeing a Patriots team sit at 6-6, and they've had to climb their way up to 6-6. They're not 6 wins and now falling back. They are all of a sudden climbing out of the cellar. So if you can stop the Ravens, and it's hard because they've got great running backs. They've got J.K. Dobbins and Mark Ingram, and not to mention Lamar Jackson's one of the quickest, probably the quickest quarterback in the NFL. And, no matter, even though it's coming, they still can't find a way to stop him a lot of times. It's a problem. 10 for 15 for 49 yards is a problem. Okay, that's not acceptable. For anybody saying Lamar Jackson is still Lamar Jackson, it's not true. Just look at that stat. That especially against this Cowboys defense. That should not happen. They should be doing way better than that.
All right, so Brandon Herrera, my question to you is based off of what you've seen tonight by Baltimore, and let me get this straight, it was not impressive by any stretch of the imagination. So Baltimore sitting at 7-5 right now. Do you have them in the playoffs as of right now?
Well, just looking at that today, and I got them, I think, just on the outside looking in. I got them and the Raiders kind of battling for that 7th seed right now. But I could see either one making it. I could see the other one sitting out. But if I had to put my money on it, I put my money on the Raiders to make it, and the Raiders to be sitting out right now.
All right. How about you, Will? Do you have the Ravens making the playoffs, or are you like, no, they're just going to be on the outside looking in?
I love the take that Baltimore doesn't make the playoffs. I love it just because I'm not a big Lamar Jackson guy myself. I didn't like him coming out of college. I didn't hate him like I hate Jared Goff, but I wasn't a fan. But I have to think Baltimore's going to make it. Baltimore has a pretty easy schedule going forward. The Raiders' schedule isn't too hard either, but they do have to face the Colts. The Colts are an amazing defensive team. They have to play the Miami Dolphins, and even though they should beat them, they are still a good defensive team. I mean, this is a team that kept the Jets close all the way up to the final minute. Just because of that, and then their performance against Atlanta, I've lost a lot of hope in the Raiders, and I was a guy who said they were going to finish 12-4. You want to talk about hope in the Raiders? That I was right there with you, but Baltimore still has New York. They still have Cincinnati, Joe Burrowless Cincinnati. They still have Jacksonville. They just have an easy schedule, and then they have a Week 17 matchup against Cleveland, which is going to be tough. But I'll take 3-1 over the fact that the Raiders could go 2-2. I think Miami is going to flop out. They have a gauntlet going forward. Mm-hmm. I mean, they have a tough schedule going forward. But I see Baltimore just sliding in. I don't think they're going to do anything impressive in the playoffs. I think they're going to get put up against that 2 seed and just get dominated, get smoked by the Chiefs, or maybe even the Pittsburgh Steelers. But we'll see. But if I had to make a decision, I'm going Baltimore in the playoffs, just sliding in.
Now, we do talk about how you're looking at their schedule and their last 4 games. You do have them against the Giants, mm-hmm. the Jaguars, mm-hmm. the Bengals, and then the Browns. Now, no, they don't play the Browns in Week 17. I don't think they do.
Next week.
Huh? Yeah, the Browns are next week. But those are the final 4 teams that they play. But mm-hmm. when you look at those 4 teams, still, from what I saw from the Giants against Seattle, I think that could be another one of those games that Baltimore could actually struggle against the Giants.
For sure.
That could be another shocking game. Mm-hmm. So if somehow they lose to the Giants and then they lose to Cleveland also, that puts them at 7 losses.
Yeah.
And are you going to say that the Raiders are going to have less than 7 losses? Are the Dolphins going to have less than 7 losses? Maybe. Yeah, I mean, the Dolphins have a rough schedule.
They do. Probably one of the roughest to finish out. It's tough.
And then the other 2, you can look at the Colts and the Titans, which I believe that those two teams are going to both be in. I think we're all in agreement on that.
Mm-hmm.
The Raiders, I'm not quite sure, and they really scare me because you got to think they almost lost to a winless Jets team, and then they got destroyed by the Atlanta Falcons. So that's one of those teams that actually really concern me. So I'm kind of on the fence about it. I want to say that Baltimore is going to make it, but I don't know. And the only reason I'm saying that is because I don't know how much I trust the Raiders.
That's fair. And after the way the Raiders have been playing, I mean, I don't trust them as far as I could throw them. I mean, you want to talk about the Atlanta Falcons offense is absolutely amazing. I mean, whenever it comes down to it, the only reason they lose games is because their defense is abysmal. But their offense has the ability to beat anybody, to be completely honest. I mean, Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, Todd Gurley, they've all been performing so good, and they've all been just slept on just because they're on the Falcons. It really is. I mean, people talk about what is the problem in Atlanta. They talk about trading Matt Ryan. They talk about trading Julio Jones. And that's the biggest mistake the Atlanta Falcons could make. I mean, you want to talk about one of the best duos to do it, especially now still in modern day football. They're just amazing. They really are. And then Todd Gurley has come out of his shell being back in Atlanta, similar to where he was back in University of Georgia. But it's just one of those to where, like, the fact that they allowed 43, I'm not shocked by, but the fact that they only scored 6 is where it's a little concerning, because that had to be the lowest score that Atlanta has allowed all year. That it had to have been, because they were getting blown out. I mean, they were allowing 30 plus to almost every single team, and then they come out and lay a goose egg, I mean, to say the least. But this Raiders team, I just don't trust this Raiders team without Josh Jacobs. And no matter how long he's out, I don't know if I can put him in the playoffs, just because he really is the heart and soul, the backbone of the offense. I mean, he's been one of the best running backs in the league, and then you take him away, and now you've got Derek Carr and a bunch of questionable receivers, and it just becomes – you become Jets level, apparently. I mean, you become a contender with the Jets, and it's almost terrifying, because this team had the potential to be great, and then you see what one player does to you, and all of a sudden you crumble.
Yeah, and that's what's about Raiders is because, you know, there was a lot of people who said that the Raiders defense was going to be improved. But over what I've seen from the last several weeks, I mean, allowing like 43 points to the Falcons and then allowing 31 to the Jets. Are you freaking kidding me?
It's not good.
It's that's not good at all. But I want to go back to where we were talking about the playoff teams currently. I do have the Dolphins schedule as of right now, and yeah, their remaining schedule is actually brutal, because next week they go to KC. Well, actually, I'm sorry. They play in Miami, but they play the Chiefs. So that's still going to be a tough game.
Either or.
Yeah. And then they play in Miami, but then they play the Patriots, and you can't discount the Patriots because they're going to show up.
Of course.
And then they play the Raiders, and then they play the Bills. So their last 4 games, it's not easy.
It's not easy. The only thing that I like about that schedule is that for some reason the Patriots always struggle in Miami. It's always a close game in Miami. In New England, they get blown out. The Dolphins don't ever stand a chance in New England. But for some reason, something always happens. I mean, even whenever you thought there was, and all of a sudden Bill Belichick puts Gronkowski at safety, and then next thing you know, Miami wins. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. For some reason, whenever he goes down to Miami, he just forgets how to coach. It's awkward. But no, we've talked about the Raiders being a winnable game now at this point, and then the Chiefs Bills is going to be tough. But it's one of those to where, like, I feel like the Ravens could make up for their lack of strength of schedule. I mean, they've got a cakewalk. They really do. Whenever it comes down to it, I mean, the Giants are hot, but other than that, like, what's going to stop them? I mean, Cleveland's going to be a close game, and that's going to be tough. But those other 2 games should be, for a playoff team, it should be just a walk in the park. It really should be. But it'll be interesting to see going forward, I tell you that.
All right, so Brandon, out of the 4 games I just gave you that Miami has, How many of those games are they going to win?
Right now, I got them winning against the Pats, but losing all the others. So I got them going 1-4, or I'm sorry, 1-3. But the way the Pats have been playing, I could see them going 0-4 and missing the playoffs. I mean, that kind of stinks on their part because they were playing so well at the beginning of the year. You know, they had so much high hopes. You know, that I really think that them switching quarterbacks like they've been doing lately is kind of hurting them. You know, so yeah, I got them 1-3 with the win against the Pats.
Wow. You know, looking at that too, I'm going to actually give them a win against the Raiders. I just feel I truly believe that they will win that game because I don't want to discredit that defense because that defense for Miami is pretty legit. They're the number 2 scoring defense in the NFL, so they're good. There's a man, and you guys probably know him pretty well, and if you don't, you should. His name is Xavier Howard, cornerback for the Dolphins. He's leading the league with 8 interceptions. The dude is a ball hawk.
He really is.
And I don't know, based off what I've seen from the Raiders, I don't know if they'll be able to beat the Dolphins. But looking at the rest of the games, I don't think they'll be able to beat the Chiefs. And it doesn't matter how good their defense is. I don't think Miami's going to pull off that win. And then you look at the game against New England. That's usually always a good game, like you said. So that could go either way. And then you have the last game against Buffalo. Now, that one to me is going to actually be interesting because let's say Buffalo has clinched a playoff spot at that point or clinched division.
They could sit starters. Yeah.
Is anybody going to play?
Right.
Yeah, they'll play because they don't want the Dolphins to get in. How long they'll play will be a different story.
Maybe. I mean,
they could honestly play spoiler. It's not the worst idea.
Yeah.
It's just to value because right now they're not getting the number 1 pick. Or not the number 1 pick, the number 1 spot. They're not getting they're not getting the bye, and so it's going to be: do you want to sit your players and rest, or do you want to play spoiler? Like it's one of those. And then even if Miami's not in a situation where they can be spoiler, there's no way they're going to play. But otherwise, you know, in any other scenario, if Miami's still sitting there on week 17 fighting for a spot, then if I'm Sean McDermott, I'm starting my players just because I don't like Miami and they're in my division. You know, we always know that divisional games for some reason are closer than any other games. And so, you know, we've seen them play twice. Now they're going to play a third time. You're going to have even more film on these guys. It's going to be concerning. I'd still take Buffalo easily, but I mean, it's one of those things to where if I can keep somebody in my division out of it, I'm going to do it.
Yep.
All right. So now we look at the Raiders' schedule and their last 4 remaining games is they play the Colts, they play the Chargers, they play the Dolphins, and they play the Broncos. So 2-2 maybe.
Whenever I looked at their schedule, I really liked it, and I thought Indianapolis may give them trouble, and everybody else they would just walk over other than the Chiefs. And those last 2 games have really put a bad taste in my mouth. Like, whenever I hear those names, you said Indianapolis, Los Angeles Chargers, Miami Dolphins, and what was that 4th one?
And then they play the Broncos. The Broncos.
Honestly, if Josh Jacobs isn't back, you may go 1-3. Maybe. It's one of those to where, like it's not going to happen against Indy. Indy's defense is just too good, and Phillip Rivers is actually playing very well right now. Their offense has always been the question mark, and he's stepping out. And then Miami's defense has been great. They've been doing just enough to win games, and then the Chargers have an explosive offense whenever they want to. Yeah, they just got shelled out 45-0 by the Patriots, but the Patriots have a good defense too, and they're still missing pieces. I mean, the Patriots defense could be even better than they are. And then the Denver game's the only one I would think would be a win. And even then, like, for some reason, if Jacobs isn't there, they find a way to lose. Like, again, divisional games are always played closer. I mean, we just saw the Broncos hold the Chiefs pretty close. I mean, it was a one-possession game. And that's something to say. You know, it's just one of those to where that divisional games are just, you just have more tapes on the guys. And, like, if you come out and Drew Lock has a decent game and the defense plays to the way that the defense can play, I mean, it should be Denver's game. It really should. Like, on paper, they're the better team, but it's just one of those to where the Raiders are in an interesting spot. I mean, just because, like, the Chargers are so flip-floppy. The Miami Dolphins, their offense is such a question mark. And they don't have Myles Gaskin still. They still don't have him, which is
he came back.
Oh, did he come back this week?
Yeah, he came back.
And so he's back. So that at least adds a different piece to that Miami offense, which solidifies something. But they still have quarterback questions. They still don't know who they're going to play week to week. And then whenever it comes down to Denver, another flip-floppy team, another team that could just manage to come out and play well or come out and just flop. It's a weird schedule. It's a really weird schedule for Vegas.
Mm-hmm. So, Brandon, with all those three schedules that we just went over, because those were the three teams that we virtually said that could be vying for that last spot. Like, we're looking at the Raiders, the Dolphins, and the Ravens going, these are the three teams that we believe will be fighting for that final spot. So, Brandon, with the schedules that we just said, who has the better chance at sneaking in?
Well, like Will said, if they get Jacobs back, Raiders probably have the easier way. I mean, they're also home 3 of the last 4 games, so I mean, they don't have to travel and stuff, so that might also play a factor. But I probably look at it. I got the Raiders in, and probably the Ravens and Dolphins both out. So,
wow,
fair enough.
Yeah, that's wow. That's it's for me. It's so hard because I want to look at the offensive side also of the ball, not just on the defensive side. And like you're talking about with Jacobs on the Raiders, yeah, Jacobs. That offense basically goes as Jacobs goes because he helps open up the passing game for Derek Carr. Now, that's a big aspect for him. Now, on the other side for Miami, do I trust Tua or do I trust Lamar Jackson?
I mean, say neither.
Yeah, but in reality, that's what it would come down to. Right. You're going to have to look at the quarterback play and say, okay, if you can't run the ball and you have to pass it, what quarterback are you going to rely on more? Are you going to rely on Tua? Are you going to rely on Lamar Jackson?
Tua's offensively weird. Like it doesn't like he's such a statistical oddity. Like because he doesn't do anything special like passing wise. Like he ends games with less than 100 yards almost every single game he plays. But he doesn't turn the ball over, which is huge. I mean, it's one of those to where, like, he's not taking many pass attempts. He's not getting many yards, but he's doing what you need. It's like it's similar to Cam Newton in a way, but Cam Newton's just not good, at least in my opinion, at least in my humble opinion. But yeah, no, it's weird because I don't like Tua, another guy that I was not high on coming out of college. Like I just don't believe in Alabama quarterbacks. I really don't. Any Alabama quarterback, I can already book it. I don't like Mac Jones. I really don't. But like whenever it comes down to it, each team has their question marks, and that's why they're all fighting for the 7. I mean, it really is, and because otherwise we'd have our AFC. And I think I mentioned this on post game after Sunday. If we didn't have the 7th playoff spot, we would know who's going to the postseason. I mean, we know Cleveland's going to go. Cleveland's sitting at 9-3. They're not gonna tremendously flop. There's no way at this point. I mean, everything's rolling on the offense. Their defense is playing well. And then the Indianapolis Colts and the Tennessee Titans are going to be battling out for the AFC South, and whoever doesn't win is going to go to the postseason as well as a wild card spot. And we know that. And so then it becomes, all right, this big 7 spot, and it's such a big question mark. And it's entertaining because it's between a lot of teams on both sides, really, on the AFC and the NFC. But I just, when I'm looking at it, I'm looking at defense first. And if I'm looking at defense first, I'm counting out the Raiders. I'm throwing them away. And then it comes down to Miami and Baltimore. And then it becomes, well, do I trust Lamar Jackson to make a pass, or do I trust Tua to pass more than 70 yards? And it's just one of those to where I'm going to trust a former MVP before I trust a rookie who hasn't put up more than 170 yards in any game in his career. And just because of that, I still have to go Baltimore personally. I still have to put Baltimore with Vegas and Miami looking in.
Well, yeah, because when you look at Lamar Jackson this year too, and you're talking about his passing game, this game tonight, even throwing for 107 yards, this just put him over the 2,000-yard mark on the season.
That's abysmal. That's not
just
good.
Put him over the 2,000-yard mark.
Yes.
He had 1,920 yards going into this game. So he barely reached the 2,000-yard mark in this game.
That's not good. That's not good for this day and age of football. I mean, it's a lot of passing. It's a passing league, and you're just now getting over 2,000 yards. I mean, yeah.
Well, yeah, and so that's why like we're saying, when it comes to the Ravens, can you trust them? And I don't know if you can.
But I am with Will, though. I mean, if it came down to the Dolphins and the Ravens, you're going to trust the MVP more than a rookie. I mean, so in that case, I'd go with the Ravens.
I've said it once, and I'll say it again. Like, mobile quarterbacks come into the pros, and they take the league by storm. It happens every single year. The guy who's mobile is absolutely phenomenal his rookie year. I mean, we saw it with Robert Griffin III. We saw it with Lamar Jackson. We may get to see it with Jalen Hurts. Who knows what's going to happen out there in Philadelphia? You know, this is round 3. You know, this is the new mobile quarterback, the new guy out there, because Joe Burrow doesn't have the legs. Justin Herbert doesn't have the legs. Tua is not much of a mobile guy. Jalen Hurts was the mobile guy in this draft class. And every single year they come in and they ball their rookie year. I mean, they are absolutely amazing, take the league by storm, and everybody thinks it's the next big guy. And then that sophomore year really kicks in. And because everybody knows what you're going to do now, like everybody expects it. And it gets in your head, I'm sure, as a mobile quarterback, because I'm sure whenever you go from passing 300 yards and rushing 150 yards to all of a sudden passing 100 yards and rushing 50 yards, you know, I'm sure that definitely gets into your head a little bit from a statistical standpoint. I mean, you go from the year to a guy who's and then the MVP in Lamar Jackson's case to not even being considered. And a lot of people are already talking about him being a bust. And I guarantee on defensive fronts, whenever you make those stops on him, I'm sure defensive players are in your head. I mean, I'm sure every single play that you get sacked, every play that you miss a pass, every play, he's the former MVP. I mean, he has the biggest target on his back in the NFL, just because, and especially being mobile, everybody's like, oh, I want to hit that guy. Like, I want to get at Lamar Jackson. Like, let me chase him down. And it just makes people feel good whenever you're stopping him. And I can imagine that the sophomore slumps a little bit, but I don't think this is the quarterback that Lamar Jackson is, but I also don't think last year was the quarterback that Lamar Jackson is. I think he's a nice, comfortable spot in the middle, and we're going to start to see it around year 3 or year 4.
All right, so one of the last things I want to touch on in this game, as we knew before this game happened, Dez Bryant got pulled from the game because he tested positive for COVID. And then it came out that Dez Bryant goes, you know what? I'm calling it a season. So I'm going to go ahead and start with Brandon. Brandon, what is your thoughts on that? Him being like, you know what? I test positive. That's fine. I won't come back. What is your thoughts on that?
I mean, you got to look out. I mean, with this COVID stuff, I mean, you got to look out for yourself and your team. But just to come out and say, you know, I'm done for the year. I mean, you got 4 games left after tonight. You know, I say you play him, you know, but I mean, maybe he's got a better reason. Maybe we'll hear about it tomorrow or down the road on what his true reasons are. But, you know, going into next year, I mean, I don't know. I don't think he's signed for next year, but as a teammate of his, I don't know if I'd trust him to want to be on the same team as him because you don't know, is he going to play? Is he not going to play? If he's sick, is he going to just be like, oh, I'm going to sit out for a few weeks? So personally, I think it's a tough call to make, but it was a shocker when it came out that he's calling it a season already. So it's like, yeah, I don't know if he's going to have a job next year.
All right, Will, what is your thoughts on Des
Oh,
Bryant?
man.
He's going to punch him in the face.
This makes me sick. This makes me utterly sick. And let me explain why. He tore his ACL and then ended up trying to get back he tried to get back with the Saints, tore his ACL in practice. That happens, okay? Like freak injury, and that's a rough injury to come back from, especially as a great route running wide receiver. It's going to be tough. But he works his way back. He's still only 32 years old. So, I mean, he's still got some decent years ahead of him. Not his best, but definitely some decent years. We've seen the likes of Larry Fitzgerald. Obviously, he's no Fitzgerald. But we've seen the likes of Larry Fitzgerald play up until he's 38, up into his, almost 40s. And to come out and to test positive for COVID, which thousands of players have already done. Thousands, maybe hundreds. But thousands is, a ton of people have tested positive. Tons of them. And they still come back. They still play. I mean, we saw Lamar Jackson do it tonight. He tested positive and he still. But the thing that makes me so sick is the fact that he tested positive, backed out from the team, and then has the audacity to go onto Twitter tonight and say, "Great team win." You're not a part of this team anymore, Des Bryant. Why don't you sit down, okay? You act like you did something, okay? That makes me sick. I mean, the fact that you're going to come out here and come cheer, oh, great team win, boys. You're not even part of that locker room anymore, okay? You sat out for the season. You're on a one-year deal. You're done, buddy. Okay, you're not a Raven anymore. You're a free agent again. Okay, and that's just absolutely terrible. The fact that he came out there afterwards, it put a bad taste in my mouth. I didn't like it. My stomach hurts. I just can't take it. Like it just really annoyed me, the fact that he came out and had the audacity to do that. Like it just makes me sick.
Yeah, and after this, I don't think he's going to get another job. I don't think he will, and I don't think it only deals with of the whole. I'm packing my bags and going home. But we've noticed later in Des' career, he's kind of been a diva and he's kind of been a little bit of a cancer. So that's why I'm saying I don't know if you'll actually see Des get another job. This might have been his last shot. So to me, he needed to continue to play and be like, you know what? This might be my last shot. But he probably wasn't even thinking about that. He's probably just like, I'm going to go home. I'm going to call it quits, and next year I'll come back. When in reality, it's probably not going to happen. But it's just like you said, how can you post on Twitter afterwards and say a great team win? You just said, I'm leaving for the season. I'm done. So what does that have to do with you?
On a one-year deal, too. You're no longer a Raven. You've literally backed out. You are no longer a Raven. And it's one of those to where, like, the problem is a GM. The way I'm looking at it is this is a wide receiver who hasn't touched an NFL field with the lights on, and by the time of next season will be 2 years. He's on the wrong side of 30. It's one of those to where, and then also coming off of an ACL injury, everything just waves red flag. And then the fact that you test positive, and it's a thing that you can come back from. We've seen athletes do it. And they've been able to play later on. Some athletes able to play the next week, and it's one of those to where this is a wide receiver core in Baltimore that's not very good. I mean, they have Hollywood Brown, and that's their marquee guy out there, and that's nothing to be excited about other than a deep threat. I mean, other than that, he doesn't do anything. I mean, it's one of those. This was one of your best shots to get back on an NFL team, and you blew it. I mean, you can't help that you tested positive for COVID, but you can help quitting. You don't quit. You made it to the NFL. Not only that, he was a star in the NFL. I mean, he was an amazing receiver. He really was. He wasn't up there top 5, top 10, but he was definitely a true number 1 in Dallas whenever he was there. And it's just, it's sad to see because Dez was a guy that I liked watching. I mean, I always wanted to throw up the X, even though I'm not a Cowboys fan. I mean, it's just something about it that, yeah, it's just something about it. Like it almost came with like a dog mentality. You knew he was going to be the guy that was sitting there barking at everybody. You knew he was just going to be like the mouthy one. And I like that as a receiver. Like, I think you need to be down your cornerback's throat and just let him know that you're superior to him. But like, they have so much ground on him now that where, like, if he even came back to the NFL, cornerbacks would just be in his head even more than he's in everybody else's head. I mean, it's just embarrassing to me. Like, it's terrible. I think Dez is done. I'm right there with you, Ace. I don't see a way that which he comes back from this and gets another opportunity unless it's a team like the Jets or the Jaguars. You know, and I don't think he's going to accept that fact. He's on the wrong point of 30. He's going to be ring chasing, and no team that's going to be in ring contention is going to want a wide receiver like Dez Bryant.
Now, speaking of that, and this is a hypothetical because we all know that the chances of this happening are going to be pretty slim. But hypothetically, let's say that Baltimore somehow made it to the Super Bowl and won it. You would probably see a Dez Bryant be like, yo, man, I was on that team, you know, I deserve it. I'm just saying that could be something that you'd probably see because he'd be like, I played for him. So do I get a ring?
And he does too. That's the embarrassing thing is that you don't have to touch the field. You just have to be on the team at a point. Like even the practice squad guys get a ring. The team dentist gets a ring. Like the equipment manager gets a ring. Like it's one of those to where if you're ever a part of the Ravens organization, if you are to win a ring or whatever team wins a ring, you get one. I mean, it's not the same one. You know, obviously the team dentist isn't getting the same one that Lamar Jackson would get, but like it's one of those to where you're still getting a Super Bowl ring. You know, it's still considered a ring, and it's just like Dez Bryant would have that to his name, and that's disgusting. Like the fact that he never touched the field. Like, I mean, he touched the field maybe a couple times. I don't even know if he recorded a catch this season.
He did. He got 4.
Oh, congrats. Great job, Bryant. You did great. Okay, can't wait to see you at the ring ceremony, bud. Like, no, it'd be so weird for Baltimore if they were to somehow pull this off. It'd just be so awkward, and it would be terrible for him too, because then he'd probably claim, "Oh, I'm a Super Bowl wide receiver." No, you're not. Okay, like, and it's not like you. And all of a sudden see they make the playoffs and be like, oh, I'm back now. Like, no, you can't do that. Like, that takes so much away from who you are. Like, at this point, you need to just wrap it up. Just pretend that you were never on the Ravens and just move on. Like, it was just not worth it. Not worth it at all.
So I got something quick. Going off of what Ace just said about, you know, if the Ravens pull it off, what would be more weirder? Washington pulling it off and the commissioner saying, your Super Bowl champs are the Washington football team, or the Ravens pulling it off and Dez Bryant getting a ring? I mean, what would be more weirder as a fan?
I want to go first.
Yeah.
Because
go ahead, Will.
If Washington won a ring, 2020 has won. Okay, like the one team in the NFL without a name is going to win the ring. Like they've already dethroned the undefeated team, which has been weird enough. Okay,
yeah.
Like this has been a game to where I kept referencing like, yeah, they could do it. It's not gonna happen, but don't sleep on this football team. Like they could actually make it happen, and then they did, and I laughed for hours. Like, I mean, Madison Ewan, I know she's in the comment section, and she's a Steelers fan. Like, I was sending memes, I was tweeting memes. Like, I mean, I was just having a great time. Like, I really was. Like, the fact that this happened is absolutely just hilarious to me. But if the football team managed, if anybody in the NFC East manages to win a playoff game, the 2021, I mean, 2020 has beaten all of us at that point. Like, it'd be absolutely abysmal. The fact that a team could get in most likely under 500 and then win a playoff game, even win the Super Bowl, that'd be just terrible.
There she is. Yeah, it would just be
that's so weird. Hey, congrats to the football team. Won the Super Bowl. You can't tell if the person knows or doesn't know what they're talking about. I mean, like, it's just, hey, you see that football team won? And it's like, which one? Like, there's 32 of them. Like,
yeah, and so Brandon, so answering your question on that, for me, that's kind of a toss-up because it would be interesting, especially if Washington won it, because like nobody out there would have seen that coming at all, and everyone would have been like, "What? The Washington football team just won." But then on the other hand, Des Bryant would be getting a ring, being like, yeah, I'm a Super Bowl receiver, yeah," and that would show in the history books being like Des Bryant has a ring, and then Des Bryant could have got a ring. While only recording 4 catches in a season, may I say. But yeah,
but
congratulations.
If we go back to some normalcy next year with some camps and preseason games, I could possibly see Brian go into a team that has some young, talented receivers and might have some questionable injuries and getting into camp with somebody. I just don't see him making a roster right now. I don't. Not after today.
All right. So after what we saw tonight in this game, we're going to say we're officially writing off Dallas, being like, even though they're only a few games out in the East, they're done. They're done.
Hey, so, who would your game ball go to? I know you're good at the game balls. Who would your game ball go to for tonight?
For tonight? Yeah. Oh man, I would have to give it to the running game, like literally the running game, because like everybody on that running game pitched in. So you can give it to Edwards, you can give it to Dobbins, and I hate to say it too, you can give some credit to Lamar Jackson because he had 91. No, I'm not talking about passing the ball. He had 91 yards rushing, so you got to give him credit on that too. So I would just say in a whole, I would give it to the running game, to all the running backs as a whole, because they all pitch in like they do virtually every game. That's how they win a lot, is by basically giving everybody reps at running back. That's what they do.
For sure.
Yeah, so, I agree with that.
So with that being said, right now, my final question, Will, do you have Washington or the Giants winning the East?
Ooh, I don't have their schedules. I don't know their schedules off the top of my head, but what I know about the teams, just off rip, if I had to give a divisional spot to one or the other, I'm going to go with Washington just because I'm going to take Alex Smith over Colt McCoy. I'm going to take Antonio Gibson over I take Wayne Gallman. I mean, it's one of those to where if New York was healthy, I would take New York. But they're missing Saquon. They're missing Colt McCoy. Or no, they're not missing Colt McCoy. Oh, if they were missing Colt McCoy, it'd be bad. But they're missing Danny. They're missing Danny Dimes, and Saquon Barkley. It's just one of those to where how long can your defense just carry you? There's no way that this can have longevity, and I really just don't believe that. I'm going to go with Washington just because this is a team that's already slept on. This is a team that has potential. This is a team that actually, I think will get better. I think this is actually – I think sooner rather than later, this is going to be Washington's division. They're on the defensive front. They're amazing whenever it comes down to it. They need a couple of pieces, but their defensive front, and especially their front seven, is one of the most dangerous ones in the league. And then on the offensive front, they're missing a couple pieces. Obviously, they need a franchise quarterback. Alex Smith's not the answer for long term, but he's doing a great job filling in until they can figure out who the next guy is going to be. But Antonio Gibson's a beast. Terry beast. It's just one of those to where the football team just has more potential. And I trust them based off of their pieces to work something out more than I trust the Giants solely just because of injuries. But I like the football team. I really do. It's one of those teams to where I wish they'd find a name so I could be more excited about them. But until they are not Washington FC, I'm just tired of them. It's one of those to where I don't want to see them in the postseason just because of it. Because I know they're just going to get stomped and they're just going to be a meme. But I'll take Washington over the New York Giants. I'll give it to them. Why not?
All right, Brandon Herrera, what do you think?
All right, so I do have the team schedule, so I'll read them off. Will, you might want to rethink, but that's up to you. So Washington is at the Niners, home against Seattle, home against the Panthers, and then at the Philadelphia Eagles. The Giants are at home against the Cardinals, home against the Browns, at the Ravens, and then home against Dallas. So,
oh man, if those schedules did anything, it made me want to give it to the football team even more.
Right.
I actually kind of want to see Washington go far in the playoffs. I like Alex Smith. I'm kind of one of those that's like, I just really want to hear the commissioners say your Super Bowl champ is the Washington football team. But I got Washington doing this and taking the division. I mean, yeah, the Giants are coming on strong with the defense, but they're hurting big time on the offense. And yeah, championships are won with defense, but I think Washington's going to pull it out. I got them going 2-2 in the last 4 games, and I got the Giants going 2-2. Or actually, I got Giants going 1-3. So I'm going to go Washington, and hopefully maybe they can squeak out a playoff win.
Yeah, which I completely agree with you on that too, because it's funny because I looked at their schedules too, and when I looked at that Giants schedule, like that's not an easy schedule by any stretch of the imagination.
I didn't know it was that bad.
Yeah, because the Cards, that could be a potential game that they could, because that Cardinals team is kind of a Jekyll and Hyde team if you think about it.
Yep.
There's no hit and miss, you just don't know at that point. And then you have a Browns team who they're scary on the running side of the ball. Baker Mayfield passing isn't anything special, but they can run the ball down your throat anytime they want, which is scary. And then the Ravens, obviously, we don't know what we're going to get with them yet. And then the Cowboys, I'm not too concerned about them. So I'll go ahead and tell you right now that they will get the win against the Cowboys, but the other 3 teams, they could lose all 3 of those.
Before we move on, before the season, didn't FedEx remove their name from the stadium?
They did because of the whole thing. Yeah.
Not only is this the football team, but a playoff game could remove the stadium.
Yeah.
The Washington Stadium. I mean, it's one of those to where like it is the most PC generic thing I've ever heard in my life. And the fact that a team gets to host a playoff game from here only makes me want to reconfigure the NFL postseason. But that's neither here nor there. Let's go football team. I'm rooting for you. You got a fan right here in Indiana. Let's go Washington, baby. I'm on it. I'm on the Alex Smith hype train, and I'm here for it, living for it.
Well, you know how many people we just kind of teed off going with Washington that is with the ASAP network. You know that, right, guys?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean,
we'll
see what happens.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. And so actually Madison wants to get our takes on what we think Washington should name themselves after this season. That's a really good question. So I have heard before some names that they were thinking about, and they were talking about the Renegades, which that's not, you can't do, because if you remember, that's actually an XFL team. So that name is actually used. So you can't use that. I've heard Washington Hogs because you're right. Yeah, but that was it. That was one of the names, and that's only because if you think about their offensive line, they're called the Hogs. That's what they call them. So they're thinking of the Washington Hogs. I don't know. That's a tough one.
The big name that was connected to them originally was the Red Tails, which was the homage to the Muskegee Airmen. I think they should just stick with the Washington theme and just go with something patriotic. Like, I think they should be something like the Admirals. I think the Admirals would be a cool name for them. We've already seen the Capitals. We've seen the Nationals. I mean, I think you might as well just stick with it and just forget that the Wizards are even there. Like, just ignore the Wizards. Like, but whenever it comes down to, like, whenever we did an episode about this on my podcast, and I said that they should go with the Admirals or the Corporals. I think those would be cool team names. But I also saw a design for them whenever they were first originally going through this as the Washington Red Wolves. And their Red Wolves jerseys were sick. I mean, they were clean. I was very disappointed that they went with the football team over the Red Wolves, because that was just an absolutely amazing jersey design. I don't know who came up with it, and I'd have to find it because it was so good. But yeah, no, I would go with something more patriotic. I would go something along the lines of the Nationals and the Capitals. My number one take was always the Admirals, so I would go with the Washington Admirals.
All right, so going to that too is, and Tim Fielder actually took exactly what I was going to say, because I was going to say if there was a team name that I wanted, I was like, yes, you can go back to the movie The Replacements and go with the Washington Sentinels. And I'm like, that would be awesome. That would be awesome. And then you could actually say you're a Washington Sentinels, and then
there you go.
Yeah, they made the playoffs, and I think that would be a fair name too. But I don't know how that works, since it was used in a movie. I don't know how that works, but
Well, you got the Mighty Ducks. I mean, they were used in a movie too.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm with Will. I think they should stick with the patriotic theme and go with however they could tie it into Washington. I mean, that's, and yeah, well, I think I did see that Red Wolves jerseys. They were very tight. But there's another name though that if they take it, how much longer down the road until they're going to say that name is not right, So, but I'm with you. I think they go with I
like it.
Those are icy white.
I like it.
But I think they should go with some kind of patriotic theme name.
All right, so we are just about out of time. The last thing we're going to do is just we're going to play a quick little game, because I know Will likes these games when I play them. So this game is going to be called In or Out. And we're talking, and I'm going to give you a head coach really quick, and next year you're going to say in or out. And so the first one, I will start with Will on this one and say, Will, Mike McCarthy, in or out?
Oh, and unfortunately for Dallas, they've had a lot of injuries and everything such as that. But it's not often that we see a head coach get moved after year one. I think whenever you look at it, I mean, he's missing the majority of his offensive line. He's missing his franchise quarterback, which may or may not be a Cowboy next season. But it's one of those to where Mike McCarthy hasn't been dealt the greatest of hands. He hasn't made the greatest of decisions, and I don't think it was the right choice whenever it came to Dallas. But ultimately, I don't see them getting rid of him after 1 year. I think he's still in for 2021.
So, Brandon, what do you think? Is McCarthy in or out?
Yeah, I know there's some Cowboy fans that want him out, but 1 year you can't judge that unless there's a big falling out between what McCarthy wants and what Jerry Jones wants, possibly. But I don't see them going after year one and getting a new coach again.
All right, Will, Adam Gase, in or out?
He doesn't stand a chance. I mean, no way.
I don't know because Adam Gase came out and said, and this was after losing to the Raiders this week. He said he talked with the owner, and he said right now the owner's telling him he feels confidence that Gase could turn this team around. So
Where's that confidence coming from?
I have no idea. So you're saying out.
There's not a chance. There's no way. I mean, right? No way. And he's not going to be a coach next season at all. Like, he's not going to be a head coach. He's not going to be an OC. He's done. He's stamped his ticket out of the NFL. He's gone. Go to the CFL and get out of our face.
So Brandon Herrera, Adam Gase, in or out?
Honestly, I don't know how he wasn't the first coach let go. But now, if you do keep Gates around and you're going to get the first pick, and let's say you do draft Lawrence, what's that say for Donald? I mean, what's his
he's right out there out with Gase too. They're walking out together. They're holding hands.
So I would want to stick around, if he knows that they're trying to get the backup or his replacement. So I Gay should have been out a long time ago this year. So
Gase isn't gone because another coach would have beat the Raiders, which means Jacksonville ends up with Trevor Lawrence, and we can't have that here in New York. We got to keep Gase all 16 games.
All right,
Yeah.
so I've got 2 coaches left here. I got 2 coaches left for.
I know
for
one
you.
coming. I know one coming. I know I do.
There better be 2 of them coming. Man.
So the next one is, and I'll start with Will on this one again. Zach Taylor, since this is his second year, but now keep in mind that even though this is his second year, Joe Burrow, he lost Joe Burrow due to injury. So is that going to help his case? And is he in or is he out?
I don't think that helps his case. I mean, the guy's 4-23-1. I think after this loss to Miami, he went down to 4-24-1. At a point, I don't care how long you've been in the NFL, man. I don't care what your previous roles have been. I don't care anything. 2 years and 4 wins is not enough. Obviously, we all know that. He's not moving the needle. Obviously, Joe Burrow is the face of the Bengals now. Joe Burrow is the guy. Like we know that. We've seen him perform in the NFL at a high level, and we know that he's going to be the quarterback moving forward in Cincinnati. Get him a new coach. Get him somebody that really sits with how Burrow plays and really build around Burrow, because this is the best chance that the Bengals have had at some postseason in a while. And not to say that they are a good team right now. They're not. They need to this is the best piece they've had to build around in a hot minute. Joe Burrow is probably the best quarterback to step foot in a Bengals uniform since Carson Palmer, and maybe even better than Carson Palmer in the long run. We won't know for quite some time. But Zach Taylor needs to go, and they really need to just clean slate in the Bengals organization and just start over with Joe Burrow at the helm, and we figure out where to go to make him happy and get him comfortable in Cincinnati. So I think ZT's gone.
But I'm going to actually go on the other end of that and say the only reason why I think he might stay is because of Burrow being out. That's the only reason.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think they might end up keeping him for one more year and be like, you know what, I'll give you your last chance, because they might think we might go out and get you an offensive line to see if that'll help. But we'll see, because right now as it sits, they would be the number 3 pick in the draft, which the number 3 pick in the draft is supposed to be Penny Sewell from the Oregon Ducks offensive line. So that would be big on that aspect. All right, so Brandon Herrera, Zach Taylor, in or out?
I gotta go in. Will made some great points, but she also nailed it too. I mean, right now they're sitting 3rd. Get that offensive lineman. Try to build in the free agency. But it'll be a short lease for next year, though. I mean, you start off 0-3, 0-4. You're probably going to see a coaching change very quick. But I think you got to give them another shot. I mean, give them 2 years together to see what they can do. So.
All right, my next one, and I had to do this. And
Come to me second.
Yep.
Give me second.
And of course that man that I'm talking about is Mr. Matt Nagy. I'm sure Will saw that coming. So I will go ahead and I will start with Brandon Herrera, so I can give Will a minute on this. So Brandon Herrera, is Matt Nagy in or out?
As a Viking fan, and I know you're a Packer fan, you want to kind of see him stay in there, just saw how bad they are. But I mean, you got to put our fandom aside, and I mean, he's got to go. I mean, he's been out-coached. He's got 2 quarterbacks that probably shouldn't even be in the league. And I actually thought Trubisky was actually going to be decent when he first played against Minnesota his rookie year, and he was, putting the moves on him. But they are going to need to clean out the whole coaching staff, front office, But I'll let Will break it down more. But, yep, I said Nagy was out, but I'm kind of disappointed you didn't throw Zimmer in there because I had a lot to say about him too. So.
Oh, I'm not done. All right.
Okay. All right. Go ahead.
So Will, Matt Nagy enter, and I know you're up to something over there. Goodbye, Chicago. Goodbye. I figured you were up to something.
Goodbye, sign Chicago. there's no reason. I mean, the man went from coach of the year to one of the biggest flops. I mean, he was coach of the year just because the first year with Mitch Trubisky, everything was clicking, everything was going great. 24-12, which is something that he'll never do again in his career, and I'm fully aware of that. But it's one of those to where it's not just Nagy. The fact that the Bears just need to clean house, it really is. There's a lot of pieces that they have that they just need to move on from. I mean, Ryan Pace, the GM Ryan Pace, he needs to go. I mean, he's been an abysmal drafter. I mean, he's great in the late rounds, but whenever it matters, whenever the top talent is there, you're not hitting. It's miss after miss after miss, and it's embarrassing. It's terrible. It's taxing as a Bears fan. We can't take that there. Matt Nagy has been an atrocious play caller from every ends of the matter, and it's because he got spoiled in Kansas City with the playmakers that he had, such as a Pat Mahomes, such as the Tyreek Hill. He was just spoiled. He really was. We need a guy. We need the Bears to go back to what they are, and that's defensive first. And because the Bears have been an amazing team in history just based off of defense. I mean, the best quarterback that's ever touched a Bears uniform is Jay Cutler, and that should let you know something because the Bears have still been a decent team. I mean, they have a ring for sakes. I mean, it's embarrassing to say that Jim McMahon led our team to a Super Bowl and Rex Grossman led us to the other one. It's gross. We've never had a good quarterback, literally ever. It's time to move on from a lot of pieces. Matt Nagy needs to go. Mitch Trubisky needs to go. Nick Foles needs to go. Ryan Pace needs to go. And then whenever we look at it, like, we're not going to sign Allen Robinson because Ryan Pace needs to go, and he's a terrible GM, and he's not going to do it. But whenever it comes down to it, there's pieces on the defense that need to get moved just because they're running out of time whenever it comes to age-wise. I love Akeem Hicks, but he's getting old. He's on the wrong side of 30. It's embarrassing, I know. If it wasn't for Peyton Manning and John Elway, he's already the third best Broncos quarterback in all time, but that's another day. Who should replace Nagy? That's a great question. That is an amazing question, and a question I've pondered for a very long time. Obviously, the big name going into the offseason for a head coaching job is going to be Eric Bieniemy. Eric Bieniemy, the offensive coordinator in Kansas City, is the big name. But guess where we got Matt Nagy from? From being the offensive coordinator in Kansas City. I don't want it. It's a terrible idea. Okay, Bieniemy needs to go down to Houston, and he needs to be with Deshaun Watson, who is absolutely amazing. And that is the thing I've set in stone. That's where he needs to go. Whenever it comes down to it, I'd have to look more into it. I don't know exactly who all is going to be available and everything such as that. I don't know what OCs, DCs are coming out. I hear Greg Williams is available because he's a terrible defensive coordinator for the Jets, but I don't want that, obviously. Adam Gase will be available. I don't want that. It's just one of those, like, whenever you look at it, there's going to be a lot of names coming out, and I would love some names out there. There are some great coaches whenever it comes to offensive defensive coordinator, but if we're going to stick in house, which I know best, we should just promote Chuck Pagano, and we should just go back to Chuck Pagano being a head coach, move him up from being DC. He's done, minus the last 2 games, he's been amazing as a defensive coordinator, and it's just one of he has head coaching experience before. He did well with the Colts team that had Andrew Luck and had an abysmal defense whenever he was there, but they were still always contenders, or at least up there in the rankings. Chuck Pagano's never really had too bad of a season, and it's one of those to where if I had to pick right now, Chuck Pagano is the first name I'm going, just because Vic Fangio left for the Broncos, which is the dumbest decision he could have ever made, because he had it made in Chicago. But I would go Chuck Pagano to replace Matt Nagy off rip, but if I look more into it, I'm sure I could find a better candidate. But yeah, Matt Nagy needs to go, along with a lot of other pieces.
All right, so
I got 2 names I want to throw at you.
Okay.
What about going Old Bears and going Mike Singletary or Jim Harbaugh?
Oh, so anybody but Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah, so
Jim Harbaugh can't beat college teams.
Because there was actually a lot of speculation that he was going to be done in Michigan after this year, and that there was 5 teams who were interested in Harbaugh. I don't know if Chicago was one of them. And Tim Fielder, I will answer your question right now. I know you're saying the interim coach from Atlanta, but here's why I'm saying I don't think that's going to be a possibility. And that's not going to be a possibility only because I believe Raheem Morris will actually stick as the head coach in Atlanta because of the job he's been doing with the Falcons. I believe that they will give him that shot there. To answer your question, Will, Matt Nagy is going to be out, and your replacement is going to be Adam Gase. That's going to be that's going to be your replacement.
All right, hold up. Adam Gase started with he started with Peyton Manning, but after Peyton Manning, he came to the Bears. And that's when he started getting his head coaching job because of the great OC stuff he did in Chicago.
Yeah, exactly.
This is not the same team that Adam Gase had.
I don't care.
Adam Gase had Jay Cutler, Brandon Marshall, Alshon Jeffrey, and Matt Forte. Okay, now he's going to have whoever's going to be at quarterback. Nobody even knows. I mean, Nick Foles, maybe.
You're getting him.
It's just not good.
All right,
I can't wait to see Gase there and then trade for Jared Goff and really have Will go for it.
I'm going to throw up. The only other name that I've seen that's been linked to Chicago already, if Matt Nagy leaves, is Pat Fitzgerald, the head coach at Northwestern. Yeah. And he even said that he would not go to the NFL unless it was for the Bears. So it's one of those to where, your word only means so much to some coaches. So, but I mean, he's got a good thing going on in Northwestern. He's going to be in the Big Ten championship. So maybe, I mean, it's one of those to where it's not the worst idea in the world. I mean, he's up in Northwestern, which is near Chicago. It's not right there, but it's in the northern part of Illinois. He wouldn't be traveling too far. It makes a lot of sense, to be completely honest, but I would still go Chuck Pagano over Pat Fitzgerald just because of the experience in the NFL.
All right. So, Brandon, I guess there's really not much else left to talk about on that one because Will talked covered pretty much everything on the Chicago Bears. So Brandon, just really quick, is Matt Nagy in or out?
Oh, I already said Nagy's out.
He's out. Okay.
Yeah, he's out. So how fast would it take you to pack up his office if he needed help?
We need help everywhere. I don't care where it's at.
No, but I'm saying Nagy called you to help him pack up his office. How fast would you get him out of there?
Oh, let me tell you how quick I'd get Matt Nagy out of Chicago.
I am waiting for that day that it says breaking news on the phone. It says breaking news. Chicago Bears have acquired Jared Goff from the LA Rams.
I've said it in the group chat, and I'll say it again. If Jared Goff ends up the quarterback of the Chicago Bears, I will denounce my fandom online. I will not be a Bears fan anymore. I promise you that.
So our last coach of the night, and obviously I'll go ahead and I'll start with Brandon on this one because the last coach of the night that we're going to talk about before we call it a night is Mike Zimmer. So, Brandon, you can go ahead and take that one away first since you're a Vikings fan. Is Mike Zimmer in or out?
I think the Packer game actually saved his job. I think towards the trade deadline, there's a lot of talks on blowing up this team. I know they were talking about Thielen being traded. And I think if the Vikings would have lost to the Packers, I think it would have been blown up and he'd be gone. I hope he's gone. I actually hope Spielman's gone. I kind of like Will. You can draft good at third, fourth, fifth rounders, but when it comes to first, second, third rounders, it's hit or miss. I mean, they've got more misses than hits on the first three picks. So, but they'll probably stick with them. I mean, personally, I think they should move on, but I think he'll be a Viking next year, maybe on a short lease, but we'll see the coach again.
Here's my prediction on this one. I'm going to tell you right now. This is what I'm predicting, and I'm really hoping this comes true because this is what I've been waiting for forever. So I'm really hoping that Minnesota is going to be like, Zimmer, you are out. And then what's going to happen is Green Bay is going to look at Mike Pettin on the defensive side and say, sir, you are out. And then what's going to happen? We're going to either get Mike Zimmer as our DC, or the other thing I'm waiting for is maybe Vic Fangio in Denver will get fired, and we'll get him as our DC.
Don't dare touch Vic Fangio.
and then so Mike Zimmer's a genius on defense, and Vic Fangio is a genius on defense. So I want one of those two. So I'm hoping one of them get fired, and then Pettin goes, and then we're like, bam, we got Zimmer as our DC. Bam, that's what we need. So Zimmer, he's out. He's out. and then he can come home. So Will Polston, in or out?
I made the hot take on Real Talk a couple episodes that 3 of the 4 NFC North coaches will be gone. And we all know LaFleur is not the one leaving. Okay, so Patricia's already gone. That leaves Nagy and Zimmer. You want to talk about college coaches coming in and coaching the NFL. I think we need to look towards PJ Fleck out there at the University of Minnesota. I mean, this guy has dog written all over him. I mean, the guy is so entertaining whenever it comes down to it. He is the definition of a player coach, but he is also he's just in there. He seems like he's on a different energy level. I saw your Minnesota Golden Gophers shirt, and I knew you'd like this take. I think it's time to get Zimmer out. I think that this is a Vikings team that, at least projected-wise, was supposed to be one game, if not leading, like one game back, if not leading the NFC North this season. This was a team that didn't lose many pieces. They've only made improvements, really, whenever it came down to it. The only big piece that they lost was Stephon Diggs. And then Diggs was replaced almost immediately by Justin Jefferson. And it doesn't really matter who your receivers are when your quarterback can't hit them. So it's one of those to where Kevin Stefanski was the backbone of this team. And we're seeing it now that he's in Cleveland. Or how Freddie would name him, whenever it comes down to it, Kevin Stefanski was the backbone of the Vikings, and I think it's time, if we're going to continue this whole college coaches coming to the NFL. We've seen it with Cliff Kingsbury, we've seen it with Matt Rule. Why not give Fleck a chance? Because he's done some pretty cool things with the Minnesota Golden Gophers football program over there. He just always seems like a hell of a coach. He just always seems like he's such a good locker room guy. He's such a good job whenever it comes to halftime adjustments. He's a great high energy coach. I think it's something that a lot of players would feed off of, and it would take a little bit of time to get respect under your belt whenever you're coming in, such as Cliff Kingsbury and Matt Rule. But I think being a Minnesota guy out there with the Golden Gophers, I think a lot of people would look at him in high regards. And he did great jobs with Western Michigan. He's done great things with the Minnesota Golden Gophers. Why not take it to the NFL level? Why not take a chance?
Yeah, and don't forget that too. That Pete Carroll also came from USC. So there's been a lot of
tons of them.
There has been a lot of college coaches that have come in and actually succeeded. There has been a few that have come in and done a big flop. Somebody like Chip Kelly, who has not done very well. But you're going to be hit and miss on college coaches coming to the NFL. But that was the end of our in and out game. I love those games, by the way. I had to do it because Will was on, and I like to play these games. I know Will really enjoys them.
I play in the comment section every sports minute.
But with that being said, I do want to say this post-game show was awesome. I had a great time with you and Brandon. It was fun. Tomorrow is Sports Minute, and so you'll have to see what's coming. I don't want to give anything away right now. I'm not going to give any topics away or nothing, but tomorrow night will be awesome. There's going to be some hot topics.
Yes, there's going to be hot topics.
Yeah, that is for sure. So, Will, you got 30 seconds to say whatever it is to say, and then I'll give it to Brandon, and we'll wrap it up. So, Will, go ahead.
Chicago, burn it down. Please, dear God. Please save us all as fans. Please get rid of everybody. I mean, let me give you a list of people who need to go. Again, just to reiterate, Ryan Pace, Matt Nagy, Mitch Trubisky, Nick Foles. Unfortunately, Allen Robinson, now that he's not going to re-sign. Get rid of Akeem Hicks. Get rid of Danny Trevathan. Get rid of anybody who has value. Get rid of them. Kyle Fuller. Get rid of anybody who is pushing the wrong side of 30 and has value. Just completely restart. Let's accept the fact that we're going to suck for a little bit. Let's just burn it down and accept the fact that we're going to suck. I mean, I've been waiting for us to do it. We, for some reason, sit there and we're just like, you know what? We're going to be contenders. No, we're not. Okay, let's actually do a full rebuild. Let's start with Khalil Mack. Let's start with Eddie Jackson. Let's start with some of our good pieces, and let's completely reconstruct the offense and just suck for a couple years, please. Let's just accept the fact, and let's build our way back up to success. Let's get a quarterback. That'd be awesome. All right. Anyway.
All right. Brandon Herrera, you got 30 seconds to go ahead and take it away.
All right. First off, Brandon that just commented, former coworker of mine, hey, you'd like him. He's a Packer fan. Right off the bat.
I love it.
I hope the Vikings get in. I know they're going to have a tough way to get in, but overall, I think Zim is going to be on a short leash next year, no matter how this season finishes off. That's it for me.
All right. my last 30 seconds of the show, I will say, yes, we'll keep saying that they're out. They're out. Yes, I understand there's a bunch of coaches that are going to be out. Matt Nagy, he's saying he's going to be one of them. So my prediction is that Chicago is going to get rid of Matt Nagy. And then this is for Will. I'm going to say they're going to bring in Mr. Adam Gase to become the head coach. And then they're going to go out. They're going to trade for Jared Goff. He's going to become the starting quarterback for the Chicago Bears.
I can't show my face anymore. I can't do
Yeah,
it.
you're still showing it.
All right. So, anyways, I just had to give Will a hard time about that because I know how he feels. But yeah, so next weekend's going to be a lot of great football games again, and throughout the week again, you're going to have some great post-game shows. This one tonight was definitely fun. You got to see a in-and-out game, which will be coming more. So I hope everybody has a fantastic night and tune in for more shows. All right, you guys have a great night. Yes, tomorrow's Sports Minute. Don't forget, Hot Topics, excellent show. And everybody, have a fantastic night. Will, Brandon.
Go on. See you tomorrow.
All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. 365, we making a plays. You talking the game, get you through the days. We're high in the court.